right, welcome everyone to this conversation on whether or not a big or a small boarding school is better, and if there ever is such a thing as which one is better. So my name is Ruby Riethmuller. I was a boarder at Askham School, and I am keen for everyone here to introduce themselves. So if you girls are happy to go around and just say your name, what year you're in, where you call home, and where you are boarding at the moment. So Izzy, did you want to start?
Yeah, I can. So my name's Izzy Twidale. I'm a boarder at SCOTS PGC College in Warwick. I'm originally from St George in southwest Queensland, and I'm currently a Year 12 student.
Amazing. Thank you so much for finding the time to chat to us when I'm sure you're very busy with Year 12 commitments.
That's okay, thank you.
Zoe, what about you? Are you happy to introduce yourself next?
Yep. My name's Strahorn. I board at Wenona. I am in year 8 and I live on a farm about half an hour outside of Orange and Molong.
Fantastic. And then we have Sophie.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sophie Lang and I'm from Pymble and I'm in year 11 and I come from Tullamore on a town near there, on a farm.
Awesome. Well, why don't we start with you, Sophie? How many boarders are at your school and how many boarders are in your year group?
There's roughly 120 boarders from year 7 to year 12. And then in mine, I have the biggest year group in boarding and I have 32 girls in my year.
Wow, that's a very big family you've got there.
Definitely, yeah.
Yep. Zoe, how many boarders do you have at your school?
Wenona's like quite small, so there's roughly 45, I think, and there's only, I think, 7 or 8 at the moment in my year.
Wow. Okay. So that's a big difference. I'm keen to hear more about the different challenges and best and worst of those in a second. Izzy, what about you? Do you fit somewhere in the middle of that? How many boarders do you have at your school?
So I go to a co-ed school, so there is a boys boarding house and a girls boarding house. Currently there's 52 girls in the girls boarding house, and it pretty much spread evenly throughout the year groups. In our grade there is 12 at the minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say are some of the peaks or the best bits about being in a relatively small boarding school and year group?
Yeah, so I feel like being in a small year group, it's great because you get to know everyone in your boarding house, and there's a bit more of like a deeper connection between everyone, and particularly with the staff as well. So because we have like a smaller cohort, like you get like more personal interactions, and so that's probably definitely a benefit.
Yeah, that definitely does sound like a benefit, having like one kind of big, small family.
Yeah,
Are there any things that come to mind in terms of the hardest parts or the more challenging parts or the things that you would consider the worst parts about being in a smaller boarding house?
There's definitely way more benefits for being in a smaller boarding house. But definitely I would say I don't think nothing comes to mind like straight away.
That's
Yeah.
all right. That's totally fine. What about you, Zoe? You're in a small boarding house. Can you think of any parts of it that make it more challenging than maybe being in a bigger boarding house with more people?
Kind of like the same as Izzy, but I can't really think of anything. There's like a lot of things I like about it and not many things I don't like.
All right. What are some of the things that you like about it?
Well, you get to like know everyone from all different years, like across from like many different places. And I remember from the beginning of year 7, we got to talk to like all the year 11s and 12s. They'd come in, like make sure we were okay. And everyone like knows your name quite quickly because there's not a lot of new names to know. And then you also get to like, you're a lot more friendlier with all the teachers because they all see you on like nearly every day.
Yeah, and do you feel like that there's more, I guess, opportunity for friendship in different year groups? Like maybe you become close with girls in other year groups?
Yeah, especially when we do like activities because you get to meet like different people, but there's not a massive amount of people to meet that you don't get to like learn everyone's names.
Mm. What are some of your favorite activities that you've done in boarding that have really helped, I guess, form stronger connections with other girls in your year group and other year groups as well?
We did this like for close boarding weekend. We did a 5K foam fest thing, and we were all put in groups with everyone, and you got to do all these different like obstacles on this really fun like course with foam and mud.
That sounds so fun. I would love to do that. Sophie, you obviously come from a very big boarding school, especially in comparison to these two. What
Yeah.
would you consider are the best parts about being in a big boarding house?
I think just getting to know so many other different girls from like all over the world. We have people that are from overseas, and then we have like girls from Darwin and yeah, in the Northern Territory. So I just like with so many girls, you get to learn like about so many other different like life experiences, I guess, which is really good.
Yeah, so more, I guess, diversity in the kind of people that
Yeah.
you get to live with.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And what about for you? Are there any challenges that come to mind with being in a bigger boarding house?
Well, so I've been boarding at Pymble since year 7, and in year 9, my year group doubled. So it went from 12 to 24. So just like I think a challenge was navigating the different friendships that like stemmed from our year group doubling. But now I think I would not change it. Like just like having so many different friendship groups and being friends with different personalities has been, yeah, really good.
Yeah, and I can imagine that that would have been a huge shock to everyone's system when you're kind of used to a group of 12 and then it doubles to 24. Do you have any specific advice if you could go back and give yourself advice when there was that kind of trickiness around friendships? I guess what advice would you give to your younger self and what advice would you give to anyone who is in a boarding environment and maybe there are new boarders who have joined and it's changing the dynamics?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, like as the like ones who is like bringing in the new girls, I guess, I think just being comfortable and confident enough to break away from the cliques that you've already made and being able to go and speak to them is definitely one of the like best tips that I guess I'd give from my end. But I guess from the other end of the girls coming in who are new, I think just again, yeah, being like comfortable enough and being like this is where I am, like, yeah, it's okay to be like a bit like wow, a bit overwhelmed, but then yeah, just like being confident enough to speak to the girls and just yeah, try and form those new friendships by just like I guess having conversations. Yeah.
Mm. And was there anything that your school did, I guess, in particular to help you form more bonds and new bonds with the girls who were coming in and kind of integrating that whole year group as opposed to having the new girls and the old girls?
Yeah, well, on like weekends or on like Friday nights in the summer, we like have organized beach trips and stuff, and that's all done like around a cohort. So just like going on those types of outings and stuff really does, I guess, boost um the like cohesiveness within the year groups.
That's cool. All those planned boarding activities are definitely a big
Yeah.
highlight, I feel.
Yeah.
Um, what about you, Zoe? You mentioned that you did that fun foam run. And are there any other activities that come to mind that Wenona does really well? And maybe they're, excursions, or maybe they're just things, traditions that you do in the boarding house that you feel really build that cohesion within the year groups and the boarding house generally?
Well, we always have like a scavenger hunt around North Sydney, so you get to like work together to work out clues about where things are around the school and like where like the school is. And then another thing that we do that kind of like really makes it feel like a family is when the year 12 go away, we always sing them a song that we like change the lyrics to like make it special to them. And we have kind of like a movie night kind of thing where we all like to sit together and like celebrate them finishing.
That's so cute. That's so nice. It feels like the epitome of sisterhood in boarding.
Yeah.
And what would your advice be for someone who's starting in a new boarding school, maybe in year 9 or year 10, where there's already those kind of pre-established friendships? What advice would you give to the person who's coming into that year group, wanting to make new friends, but maybe in a way feeling a bit threatened or worried that they're not going to fit in with the dynamic that's already been established?
Kind of like just don't try not to think of that because you're gonna be like living with each other. It might not happen like straight away, but you are gonna like click at some point. So just be confident and like have a go at like talking to them and like making conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess all of those activities that you do at school are a really good opportunity to just like get to know people and yeah, all of you kind of step outside of your comfort zone in doing scavenger hunts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Izzy, at your school, is there anything that stands out in terms of the integration of new and existing boarders? And how would you say that schools could do a better job of making sure that all boarders feel included, regardless of their background or when they started the school or their interests or hobbies?
Yeah, so something that I feel like we do very well as a small school is we have a family group activity. So it's where like every grade 12 gets like a couple of younger students with them, and so like you're like kind of like a mentor to them as such. So you'll take them downtown, like give them a bit of guidance, help them through it. Like you'll introduce them to new students, and you'll kind of really immerse them in like the whole boarding school concept. And so that really helps with our new boarders coming in who might be a bit shy or might be not as out there or worried about making friends. Like it's a way that you have a designated people and a designated group that you can always come back to and like help introduce you to everyone. So I feel like that's a very good way to introduce each other. And then our weekly boarding activity is also another way to like immerse yourself into like the whole boarding aspects, like staying in boarding and doing those like the activities, like a couple of weekends ago into the Broncos game or like things like that. Like as we're a small school, like we can do those kind of things. So that's definitely a way to like bring yourself into a new boarding house.
That's so cool. And do you feel like you have any traditions that are not like planned activities that make new boarders feel welcome? Like I guess even things like talking after lights out or things like that can actually really help form strong bonds so that you're just getting to know people differently. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Like we have ovals at the boarding houses and stuff, and like a pool, and it's just like making those connections, like going down to the pool and just with a speaker and with your friends, and bring any new students down and like incorporating them. Like that's definitely how to make them welcomed, I guess. Yeah, definitely. And like the little things you do, like after lights out, like talking to people, like it's always doing stuff that makes like connections like grow stronger, I guess.
Mm. And how many people do you share a room with, Izzy, at your school?
So we have all single rooms. Like we all have our single rooms from grade 6 to grade 12. So but we are in our cohort areas. So like I do have we have our own room, like so I'll have my own, but then we'll have like a little section of grade 12 boarders. And so like with a separate little common room. So we're kind of in there together like that. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's incredible. I feel like I guess you don't know any differently than being in a room on your own, but have you ever felt like it would be cool to be in a room with more people, or you kind of like that in the boarding environment you're surrounded by people, but then you can go and have your own space?
Yeah, so when we were in the younger grades, like we could opt to go in like a dorm kind of situation. So it's like you have like 3 kind of individual rooms in a dorm, like with a common room each. And so like we opted to do that for one of our first terms, and that was like really good to get to know everyone like when you're first coming in, and that kind of like when you're first starting, it was really nice to like get to know everyone. But then I feel like as we got older, it was like really nice to have our own rooms because like some people might be up late studying or out doing different activities and stuff. So having that own space is kind of good to reset and be able to kind of do your own thing in a way. But knowing everyone else still out, like you open your door and the girls are everywhere. So yeah, you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, actually. Yeah. Zoe, would you agree that at Wenona it's similar? How many people are in your year groups in the dorm?
Well, it kind of changes because in year 7 you all get like put into one room together, which is quite a big room, which I quite enjoy because you get to like know everyone very well in your year group. And then afterwards you share rooms with like, if you're in year 8, you might share with the year 9, with a couple of year 9s, or if you're in like year 9, you'll share with a couple of year 8s. So you kind of get to know people from many different like years through that, because they're all coming in and out of the rooms. And then especially like after lights out, it's like really fun just to have like a chat or like just do whatever really.
Mm. And do you feel like as you are getting older, like you said at the start, you're with everyone in the room. Do you think that as you get older, you do appreciate having smaller dorm sizes because there are maybe less distractions or less chaos?
Yeah, and once you get into the older years, I have 4 in my room now, opposed to 6 last year, but it gets down to like 1 or 2 people in a room in year 11 and 12, and the year 12s have their own house, so they have like a little house where it's just them. They have all their rooms with one teacher in there, and then like a common room where they could all sit together, so they can stay up like late studying if they need to, or they can just go to bed, and it kind of like doesn't really bother them that much.
And is that something that you're really looking forward to, and that other boarders are kind of like, I can't wait for year 12 when we've got our own house and we all have our own room?
Yeah, I've stayed in there before for like swimming, and it looks really nice.
That's so fun. That's definitely something to look forward to. Sophie, what about you? How many boarders do you share a room with now, and how has that changed over the years?
Well, currently in year 11, all the girls have their own room. Yeah, but so in year seven, you start with four girls. So, yeah, like a dorm of four girls in a room. And then as you move up the years, it kind of progressively gets less. And then from year 10 to year 12, you have your own room, which is
Okay.
definitely very lucky considering the size that we're able to accommodate for that is really great.
Yeah, that's a lot of rooms.
Yeah.
Must be a very big boarding house. And
Yeah.
with so many boarders, how do you get time on your own? Like, if you are needing a break from people, is there an opportunity to do that? Like, what do you do if you are just needing some time on your own, whether it be physically or just like emotionally?
Well, I have my own room currently, so I can kind of just retreat into there. But I remember in year seven, just like, so when we were in year seven, we had year seven, eight, nine in the boarding houses. And then like the year nines had their own room then because it was, yeah, a different style of boarding. But it was just if you're in year seven, you just like needed a break. If you like had friends in year nine or something, or the older girls just kind of took you in, they're like, oh, you can just come sit in my room for a bit and stuff like that, which was really helpful. But yeah, and also we have like common spaces, but sometimes if like they're not being used at the moment, you can just go in there and sit on the lounge and kind of have a bit of a breather or maybe just like detach from everything else that's going on.
That's so nice. So even though you have a big boarding school, you still feel like you are able to form strong friendships with girls in
Yeah.
years above and below.
Yeah, definitely. And we do community weekends once every, like one weekend every term. And they kind of vary. Like in term two, we do a big Just Dance night where we have like a big competition between all the houses and all the different year groups, which is really fun. And then we also on Tuesday nights have spirit house circles where there's, so like we have four spirit houses in boarding. And then on each tables is one girl from each year group. And that just like really allows the connections to grow as well. Yeah.
That's so nice. So really building that sense of family and community.
Yeah. And we've also moved into vertical boarding this year. So in two houses, there's year 8 to year 11 girls. So that just really
Oh,
like emphasizes more of a like family environment, I guess, because like, you know, you've got essentially like your little sisters running around as well. So yeah.
and how did you find that shift? Is that something that you feel like when the school introduced it, people were excited about or a bit nervous about, and how has it turned out?
Well, I think obviously everyone's always nervous about any type of change. But I think once everyone sort of settled down into it, like obviously like the first couple of weeks, we were all like, oh my gosh, like there's like, yeah, it was different. But I think it's been for the best, just like really emphasizing, yeah, that sense of community within the boarding house has been really helpful with the vertical boarding as well.
That
Yeah.
sounds so cool. And in terms of if there's ever any like friendship conflict, Zoe, we might jump to you because you're in a smaller boarding group. You know, when you're always living together and it's such a small group of people, how do you, I guess, navigate if there is conflict or awkwardness between different friends in the boarding house?
Well, you're kind of always hanging out together, so you kind of just have to get over it. But a lot of the time, even if it is there, it doesn't last very long because you are seeing each other every day. It's kind of like if you're fighting with your sister, it might last a little bit, but it doesn't last very long. And how like we kind of sort it out is if we just don't want to talk to them for a little bit, we can always go to like say the year nines room or like go hang out with the year sevens or even like the year 11s took like really good care of us and we just like talk to them about it. And then it does eventually just like sort itself out kind of thing because you are living with each other and seeing each other every day.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that you related it to siblings. Like I feel like when you are fighting with a sibling, it generally does just like evolve and evaporate. Izzy, what about in your school? Do you feel like it's similar in terms of navigating conflict and overcoming awkwardness?
Definitely. So like anywhere, like there always will be like conflict at some point with something. But it's just about getting over it. Like because we are a littler school, like, you know, if something has happened, well, there's, you know, you kind of, if you see them all of the time, you get on the bus with them, you see them in class, like, so it doesn't take very long to get over that. And the fact that we have our own rooms, it kind of like just like de-escalates it. Like, so if something has occurred, like you can just go to your room, like trying to relax a bit, and then by the time you come back out, everything's always pretty settled because, you know, everyone just wants to make friends. There's no point like making arguments, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I feel like in this conversation, it's just made clear that there is really no better option, whether it comes to small or a big boarding school. It's just what you're used to. So I think it's so amazing to have all of your insights, and thank you so much for sharing those with us, and hope that you enjoy the rest of your boarding experience, as I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.